Welcome back to another episode of the One Tree Hill Rewatch here on the Filmaholic channel. Today we're going to talk about one episode, and that is 617. You and Me and the Bottle Make Three tonight. And this episode originally aired March 16th, 2009, so there was a little bit of a hiatus between 16 and 17. It was a little bit of a weird choice to do 16 as their like mid-season hiatus, it seems like. Definitely seems like 618 would have been the better option to do that. But yeah, that's weird. This episode is directed by Greg Prange, who directs a lot of the big episodes. This one is a pretty big episode. It's a really good episode, actually. It's written by Terrence Cully. And one thing I want to point out, I'll talk about this too when we do the video for the next episode, is that my season 6 finale trip, when I went to watch filming, and when they were filming season 6, it was at the tail end of the wedding episode 623 and the start of the finale episode 624. So I actually got to see a little bit of both stuff from both episodes. So I got to see like the wedding area set up and everything. I got to see a couple scenes from a distance be filmed for 623 at Close of the Bros, and I'll talk about that when I get there. And then I also got to see several scenes from the finale film. I actually got to see the last scene in this season, which is a very big one. We'll talk about that when I do the episode for that. But I actually got to see that be filmed, and that's pretty incredible that I got to see that scene be filmed because of what happens in it. But yeah, so it was after this episode that I went on that trip, so I want to go ahead and point that out. But this episode is broken up into parts. So it starts off with like a little tease of everything, which is cool. I like that. But then it breaks it down into parts. So, which was an interesting choice because the first part we get into is the latent stuff. We want to start this episode strong. So you have the Lucas and Peyton stuff. Obviously, in the little teaser of the episode, she had pain and they had to go to the hospital. So this is following that, but instead of breaking it up and splitting it up across the whole episode, which you can definitely tell where that could have happened in the script. Instead, they push it all together and all have it in one like part of the episode, one little chapter, if you will, about those two characters and the baby. And I thought that was a good, interesting way to do it because we haven't ever seen them do that with One Tree Hill before, and I liked it. But essentially, she had a pain. They went to the doctor. They're discussing getting an abortion because if she has the baby, she could die. And Lucas wants her to get the abortion. She doesn't want to get it. And that's kind of the argument in stuff going back and forth. But it's really emotional scenes and incredible acting from both Chad and Hillary in this episode. His acting is probably the best, one of the best episodes for him as far as performance wise. He did a really good job in this episode. And then ultimately at the end of the episode, they decide to keep the baby. They're going to go through with the pregnancy and see what happens. Then you also have the second part, which is the Mouth and Millicent stuff. So Millicent comes back to get the rest of her stuff in her car because she's moving to New York and not coming back. And so their relationship is over. So you got that. That's the second part. And then we also have, I can't remember which one goes first, but we have the Brooke and Julian stuff, which Julian tells Brooke he loves her. It seems rewatching this time a bit soon for him to tell her that, but also we don't know exactly how much time has happened through these episodes that they've been dating and seeing each other, because I think it's been longer than what it feels like. So anyway, but he tells her that. She freaks out, which is also interesting to point out because they have a conversation too about her and her past with Lucas and whether or not she's still in love with him, which she's not, but she hasn't been in love since. So that's interesting because she told Chase in season 4 that she loved him. So obviously she didn't, and just goes back to show that the Brooke and Chase thing was awful from the game. But they have this conversation about that, where ultimately he says, we'll use it as like a deleted scene and pretend this didn't happen. But then at the end of the episode, when she comes out for them to go on their date, he looks over and sees a picture of Lucas on the fridge and decides to make something up and get out of there because he can't go on this date tonight, because he's always going to be thinking about her and Lucas and the fact that she couldn't say I love you back. And then we also have the Naley stuff. Nathan and Haley are in Charleston, she comes to him because it's their anniversary, 7-year anniversary. I will point out that I'm very happy that they got the continuity right on this, because if they had messed up and said 6 years or less, I would have been furious. 7 years is how long they have been married if you look at the continuity. So that's great. I was happy about that. And she discussed kind of them moving to Charleston and starting their life there. And he's like, no, I want to stay in Tree Hill. Like, you can still focus on your music, but you need to go back on tour. Once again, foreshadowing season 7. And that's what they have going on. And then you also have the last part, which is my favorite part of the episode, which is the Dan, Deb, and Jamie stuff. So Deb thinks this is going to be evening with Jamie. Jamie ends up, he invited Dan over for dinner, so they all have dinner together. And then when they tuck Jamie in, Dan tells a goodnight story to Jamie that Jamie asked for, and it's about Nathan when he was a kid. And then as Dan's leaving, him and Deb start reminiscing about when they were married and when Nathan was a kid, which I always like those scenes, and like looking more into that. And I just love their scenes in this episode, in this part, for all the beginning, because what we're about to get into, but also just when they're having a good time and together. I love that because it just makes me think of when I was a kid, because I really like Dan and Jamie's relationship, because Dan's my favorite character anyways, but their relationship makes me think about me and my grandpa and my relationship with him. And just this episode and this part made me think too of like when I was a kid and the chances and the opportunity when I would get to spend the night with my grandparents. Because it didn't happen much, but you remembered when it did. And it was always something special. Getting to watch movies with them, and you know, it's just not something you get to do often, and it's nice. And that part of the episode made me think of that and my grandparents. After that, though, when Dan goes downstairs and him and Deb start reminiscing, a photo of Keith comes up in the photo album. And Deb takes the conversation south. She's like, you know, we were supposed to be these people tucking our grandkids in, but then I remember you shot your brother and all this. So the conversation, like I said, goes south. Dan gets up. He starts to leave. He's gonna walk out. He's gonna leave it alone to begin with, and she keeps pushing. And that's when he's tired of it. He throws his jacket down. He's like, you know, if you want to reminisce about the past, let's do it. Let's talk about Keith. And that's when it all comes out about the whole, something that I had been thinking about the whole time since season 3, but definitely since season 4 when she found out that he killed Keith, was the fact that, in a way, a lot of it is Deb's fault that he killed Keith. Now, it's primarily his fault because he is the one who did it. He did it. But like he says, I pulled the trigger, you loaded the gun. And that is true. Because he, you know, goes off on her and tells her every little thing that happened, as far as like he thought he was getting revenge because Keith tried to kill him, but it wasn't him, it was Deb. And then, you know, back and forth different things, and that led to the fact that Deb and Keith slept together, and then Dan walked in and had a heart attack after seeing that. So all of this, you know, spawned from stuff that she had done. He doesn't forgive everything that he did also in their marriage, which he even says in the next episode was miserable. But that is a big thing, and it's something that she says she has felt guilty over for the past 5 years. So I think it was essential and very important that they had this argument in this episode, and that it happened during the series. For one, because I feel like as a dedicated audience member, it's something that you think about, but it's something that the character should think about too, both of them. And the fact that they had the argument was very nice, and it was emotional and good acting from the both of them. And then, before the episode ends, Jamie runs into the room with the beeper, and the beeper's going off. Dan's going to get his heart. And then we left on that cliffhanger until the next episode. Alright guys, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time.